Hey, everybody. Welcome to our grad interview. We are interviewing Eva tonight. So Eva comes to us from Canada, the wintry cold north. And so she's just gonna share with us about her experience with Pretty Focus, what it was like going through Pretty Focus, and then what her business looks like now. So Eva's pretty awesome. I don't know if you're a student, you know who Eva is, or if you're a grad, you know who Eva is, and we are just so excited to hear her just kind of share her thoughts about her business and how she's doing things and why. So, Eva, let's start with like at the very beginning. Tell us, why did you join Pretty Focused, and when did you join, and why did you join?
So I enrolled it would have been end of March of last year, just 2021.
Was it just then?
I know. I was thinking it was the year before. That's crazy.
I know. I always have to do the math. I feel like everybody's brain is a little fuzzy the last couple of years, but
Right.
I always have to like do the math and think like, wait, the first year was, like I was wedding photographer prior, and weddings and events just totally were non-existent probably everywhere. But so my couples kept postponing, and it took me a solid year to realize, things aren't changing with the landscape of the event industry. And I've been friends with Sarah Wild for years now. She shot my wedding, so we've known each other for 10 years now. And we were just chatting, and from knowing staff, and Sarah had mentioned that she had the course and she hadn't really gotten to go through the videos and stuff yet. So I said, well, what if I join it and we can do it together, kind of as that sort of like
buddy up.
Yeah.
And
accountability. Yes.
We kind of used it as like a little friendly competition, like, oh, I'm here. And then it was, oh no, I haven't had a chance to watch it. So we would make sure that each other was in the loop all the time. So we went through it pretty quick. And then I graduated in May, and I had clients right away, which was like outstanding. I was totally blown away. Like I thought everybody had said that was the way things were, but until I graduated, and then inquiries were coming in and stuff like that. And I was blown away. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is real. People actually do want to hire you right away, kind of thing. So yeah, it's been obviously over a year now, and I could probably be busier, but because of all the weddings that have been postponed, and they were all coming out mostly this year. I had a little bit last year, but the majority of them were this year, that I had to kind of step back and really divide my time properly so I could still focus on getting my clients' work done and completed and all that stuff. But it still feels like I'm working enough that it's full time. Like I'm very busy, and can't wait till next year, because I've really cut back, and I'm going to take on a lot less with my event and portraits and stuff like that, so I can focus mostly on food. Like 90%, I think, will be food and working with bloggers and stuff.
Why the shift? Like, because people would be excited, like, to have a successful wedding photography business, a successful portrait photography business. Like, why choose food?
I feel like for me, there's a few reasons. In the beginning, I thought that it would maybe be like a transitional type thing. I could do it for a little bit, and then when weddings pick back up, I would just instantly start booking full seasons again. But I just fell in love with it. And I literally said to my husband, when I started taking the recipe development side of things, I said, I was born for this. Like this is what I literally do. Sorry, I get a little teary. I just say,
I love it. Oh God, another one, Melody.
Yeah.
I know, keep crying.
Yeah, it's true though. Like that's how I cook at home. Like we have a pretty decent balance with like who cooks at home, but I like to play around a little bit with recipes and stuff, and try to put a healthier spin on it. Or, I didn't like this certain flavor, but what if we added it with a flavor that I do like? And I've always modified things. So when I started learning about how the recipe development side of that worked, I was like, this is what I do every day in the kitchen anyways. I liked to always make a recipe once, so I kind of knew what to do, and then figure out what I liked and didn't like about it, or what textures were good or didn't I really care for. And then it just, to me, it was a no-brainer. It was like, this is kind of more fun for me right now. And especially because it felt really easy. It didn't feel like that part wasn't a gigantic learning curve for me. So it just felt like, I'm doing this anyways. I might as well get paid for it. And I get to work from home. And my little guy started school last year. So to be home when he would get off, not the bus, we pick him up, but when we get him from school, all those things, like the way my family life is right now, it just kind of all lined up. So it felt like the right step to push the weddings and portraits and events to the side a little bit more.
So how often were you out of the house for events and portraits and weddings?
So 5 to 6 days a week, because I had a studio outside of the home. So my studio was about 15 minutes away in a downtown in this, like, a neighboring city. So I was there Monday to Friday, 100% of the time. So my husband would usually do pick up at school. So I would do drop off, go straight to the office. I'd be there, till kind of 5:30 sometimes, come home for dinner and go on with my day. And then if it's summertime and we've got a lot of nice light, I'd be doing sometimes 2 portrait sessions a few evenings a week, and then Saturdays. So it's always been very busy to kind of manage that side of things.
So now you're able to just be at home, and you have a beautiful studio that you're sitting in right now.
Yeah.
That I love that you've got food in your studio. Like, you do food in your studio. You didn't build that studio for portraits or couples, right?
No.
I mean, it's for food. It's amazing. You have a whole kitchen.
Yes. It's fun. It's a little nicer than my kitchen inside, which is also new because we just renovated the house. But yeah, when we realized that this is the aspect of the business that I wanted to run with, the thought of doing it at the other studio just would have been so much more difficult. I had a tabletop oven. Like, I bought one of those Breville tabletop ovens, which is only so big, so I couldn't do sheet pan stuff, and it's just smaller. Like, I could barely even fit a mini muffin pan in because they're a little bit bigger. Like, it was hard to, like, it had to be on a certain rack because you had to really shove it in there. And then just extra space and stuff like that, it wouldn't have been feasible. And because it wasn't my space, I didn't own it, I couldn't put in a full-size oven and stuff like that to make it more adaptable to this business. So we talked about, well, how could I do this at home? And our house isn't laid out for food photography in the way that when I dive into something, I dive in. Like,
you can tell.
Yeah. So we were talking about maybe like putting a tiny addition on the house that was off the kitchen. So I had like just a shooting space. And then when we started looking at it and like crunching numbers and this and that, we thought that it might be better to utilize the garage. So we thought it was going to be a small project, but then it turned out that the concrete and everything was just too far gone, that it didn't make sense to put a brand new structure on top of an existing bad sort of surface. So we literally, everything was gone and started from scratch. So, which was nice because I got to make it with the thought of food in mind. So it's very efficient for what we do.
And if you ever sold, what could you sell this studio as? Like, would it be like a casita type thing? I just was in Arizona. It's like, like a granny flat. Is it what they call it everywhere else?
Like it's, I don't know what you would call it, to be honest. I'm not sure. I've never
heard like a value add, right?
Oh,
like
big time. Big time. Like, it's a full kitchen. I mean, I technically, because everything's IKEA and it's relatively easy. I mean, aside from getting somebody to physically move the countertops, if I wanted to, I could take it with me. And if I moved, not that I want to move after doing this, but yeah, I could leave it, and it's a really value added to the house. And we thought of that as we were designing everything, and we actually put like a 10-foot overhang off the side of the studio. So now when I have a side door that I can go out and it's covered in the back. And then we put a door outside from the backyard. So there's like stairs to go up, and you've got access to the attic. So all of our storage that used to be inside is now upstairs, and it's all well utilized.
Oh,
so
nice.
yeah. So
Oh my gosh.
it would be nice for someone to come in, and I bet you it would be a big selling feature, but I don't want anybody else to.
Well, it really is. When you showed the pictures, we were all jealous.
Yeah.
I know.
Mission accomplished with the level of jealousy in the group.
Yes. So amazing.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
love being able to see it. So how was it going through? Because you came in with experience, obviously. So you knew how to use a camera. What were maybe some differences of like this niche of photography that's different than the area that you came from?
The biggest difference is, I feel like, obviously, is using a sharp focus. Like, we want to shoot at 1.2. Like, I feel like sometimes like using f2.8, if you get stuck with a certain lens in the event world, it's like, it almost feels like, oh my gosh, these images are too sharp. Like it's kind of scary. And then I remember the first practice shoot I ever did, I didn't do the process because I didn't have like a really big setup. I was just using a small window in my kitchen at the time. So I thought, well, I'll just do like just some heroes and I'll play around. And I remember shooting them at like probably 1.4, 1.6. And thinking like, oh, these are so pretty. And then I'm looking and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so not what we're supposed to do.
They're out of focus.
Yeah. So that was the biggest thing, was just not learning it so much as just telling my brain, rewiring my brain to say like, this is not what they need. This is not how they work, and running with it that way. And then making sure that I feel like the biggest learning curve from that was really just the hero shots, like how they really work with the blog, and to make sure that we're framing things properly, and that side of things.
Yeah, that is a really big difference. I think when people come from another world niche, photography niche, I guess, into this one, we hear a lot. It's the aperture, the depth of field, and then making sure you have enough heroes for the recipe, right? So, I mean, whenever you're doing wedding photography, you're not getting, 20 different photos of like the flat lay, of like the invitation and the shoes, right? It's typically 1, maybe 2 photos, and then you got to move on, right? But for us, we are making sure that we have all of the heroes needed for that recipe. And it's a variety of, whenever it's pulled straight from the oven, what it looks like straight out of the oven, what it looks like, as you're serving it, what it looks like served to guests, right? So you're kind of getting the whole thing you're getting the whole recipe, the kitchen as a whole.
Yeah.
Or the kitchen as a whole. I'm sorry. The recipe as a whole.
Eva, when people ask us how fast they can go through Pretty Focused, you're the person I think of, because in the modern day era of Pretty Focused, you're probably the person who did it the fastest.
Yeah. I like that.
And so we always are like, it depends on skill, which you had bucket loads of skill and experience, and then how much time you can dedicate to it. So can you tell us what it took to be basically the fastest person to go through and graduate? Because I don't know of anyone who's been able to do it quicker. And I
mean, for me, because I mean, in all reality, I didn't really have a lot of business, and it was sort of my off season at the time, anyways, because I started mid-March. So for me, I don't normally, like, even now, like for any weddings and stuff that I take, I normally don't start until June, just because I don't like the winter. I don't like the cold months. I don't want to be outside at all. So I don't normally start my season until June. So I didn't really have anything going on during those months. So I would just sit there and watch and for hours and just typing all these notes and stuff. So I mean, I think from start to finish it was like 6 or 7 weeks.
Yeah. So it was like your full-time job for those 6
pretty
weeks,
much.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely dedicated a lot of time to it. And the hardest part I found was waiting for feedback in between. I'm sure you might remember. I mean, it was a while ago now. You guys have had so many people come in, but there was the odd time where it was like, here's 2, like, just check them out. Let me know what you think. I just wanted to get through it so fast.
Yeah.
And not just to make money, because that was my biggest push sort of at first, but because I was just enjoying it all so much, and I wanted to keep moving forward so fast that I just wanted to, like, get my 15 done and hope that at that point I was ready to then start portfolio. So I was definitely watching something 7 days a week, whether it was, you know, for an hour or for like 4 hours. I was definitely like kind of 7 days a week. I would watch a little bit of something.
No.
Wow.
And I mean, I think it's okay. Money is a great motivator. So if anyone wants to go through and just, that's allowed. It's it's like 100% allowed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what were some obstacles that you faced maybe going through Pretty Focus? Maybe it was something other than just like waiting for the feedback. Was there anything that was hard about it?
I wouldn't say hard per se, but I honestly always say that I think I'm a slow learner, which is also why I like to go through things fast, because I need to go through them again. And I don't think it's that I skim over things and that's why I'm having to go back, but I feel like I'm just always catching something different. I don't know if it's just the way I am, the way my brain processes information or what, but hero hacking was something that I struggled with in the beginning, big time. And I don't really know why, because it's talked about all the time. There's so much help. There's so much help in the course. Like, there's literally like the worksheets, and I used them. Like, I literally had them laminated and they were all over my desk. And so like they were in front of me all the time. But for some reason, my brain would maybe just click to autopilot and want to try to be creative. And maybe it wasn't the right way to do things exactly. Like, maybe it would have been a good shot, but it was the wrong angle. Or maybe my focus would have fallen on something, but I thought it was like, well, it's okay to go a little bit over here or something. But heroes was a big thing I found I struggled with. And not just getting them, but knowing which ones were actually it. And when I look back at it now, I'm like, how? Like, all you got to do is look at Google Images. Like, I don't understand how I couldn't see like images when I was going through it as easily as I do now, or even just shortly after graduating and stuff like that. I don't know when it clicked, but it did at some point, obviously.
Well, it shows how much you've grown in a year and a half, that you're like, so easy now.
Yeah.
And I have a friend who works with Eva and adores her. So obviously it's working out really well for you.
I mean, hero hacking is one of those things that it just takes time and practice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure, of just knowing. But I know whenever you're coming from like that, I know Joanne was like, you know, you kind of hero hack for weddings too sometimes, right? But whenever it comes to like weddings, I feel like you have, oh, this is my artistic interpretation, where it's like, no, in food blogging, no, we need you to get these certain photos of the recipe, right? So we need to make sure that the photos make sense for the recipe too. So I think that's a little bit a little bit different.
Yeah, and with weddings, like you said, you're allowed to be creative. So at the end of the day, because they're hiring you for your artistic vision, no one's going to be mad at you if you played around a little bit more. But then at the end of the day, with food, if you deliver images and the proper heroes aren't in there, then someone could get a little mad at you for not doing that part right, because you've been hired for something more specific, I guess, than how a portrait looks. Or
well, and you are essentially working for somebody else's brand too. You know what I mean? Whereas like you have your own business, but you're also working to represent somebody else, and they need certain images to be able to promote their posts. And so having those images is so important. So I know we've talked about a lot of things. So if you guys have any questions that you want to ask her specifically, please let us know. But Eva, let's talk about, are you doing recreations? Are you doing exclusives? And how are you doing that?
So I do both. I do have a few clients that I work for regularly, and I just want to keep it, at least right now, I want to keep it at just a few. I do they all work on sort of a different blogging schedule as far as like hiring me out for it. But I probably do about 6 to 8 per month regularly, and then the odd 2 more come through kind of like a little bit more sporadic. And then I do my own exclusives and semi-exclusives. So I took a big slowdown over the summer months because it was so crazy doing all that. I've done a lot of recipe development still because that's something that I really like doing. Part of me likes it a little bit more than actually shooting. But I don't know. I haven't really developed that side into just selling a lot of recipes just from the development side. But I have done a few. It's something I do plan to do more of over the winter when I start to kind of slow down from my other side of things.
Okay, that's great.
It's cool.
Yeah, but it's a nice balance. I like to keep sort of my feet wet in both avenues of the work right now. So
okay. So when you came out of graduation, did you start with a shop, or is that something that you added later?
I added it, I think, in the summertime, maybe July, and I graduated mid-May and had clients right away. So a couple months in.
So how long did it take you to connect with clients after you graduated?
I think it was like 4 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I think it was within like the first 15 minutes, I had like 7 different leads. I did a couple, like just test, like we'll do one recipe and test it out and see how it goes. But I had 3 regular steady clients from the beginning. And then it's pretty much been 3, and I've kind of coasted on 3 from almost the very beginning.
So you've been working with the same 3 clients for the last year and a half.
Almost three that were the same. I had one change over the course of a couple months, and then now for probably all of this year, I've had those 3 regularly all year, and 2 of them were from last year too.
So a lot of people are concerned about like oversaturation. Mm-hmm. What would your response to that be?
I think there's still a lot of business to go around. I know the bloggers that I do work with are always asking, like, does your availability change? Like, let me know if your availability changes. So I feel like if I wanted to take on more from the recreation side of things, I could. So I have a feeling they're looking. So I imagine there's many others. Like the Buyers Club has so many different blogs in there with all different types of niches and specialties. And then from the exclusives and semi-exclusive side of things, I don't sell out every single time. But I feel like that's my own fault because I'm not always posting stuff when I'm supposed to. It's just like, oh, hurry up, get this out, because it's just been so crazy the last little while. And it's either too soon, because I don't think the people that are on my newsletter, I don't think they're really, really big in like early shopping. They're a little bit more, not last minute, but kind of an in-betweener. So sometimes I put stuff out too soon. So it might sit for a little while and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I sometimes overshoot so much that I just can't, that I'm not able to sell out every single time. So I've got a lot of content to go around. So
Okay.
I don't think it's oversaturated, but.
Yeah, I would say if you're working like for 3 clients and you are doing multiple shoots for them every month and they're asking if you have more availability, it's typically a really good sign, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think growing email lists too, because it can be like the last thing to think about when you're in it, will help, because the more people you can drive directly to your shop. That's what I always think. Like, bigger the email list, the better you can get around Facebook, like all of those things, and not have to worry so much.
Yeah. Anytime someone asks me for feedback or advice when they're first starting out, that's the first thing I always say is always grab emails and let people know that eventually, or one day when you have it ready, you'd love to be able to connect still and have it somewhere.
How did you build your email list?
Mostly through the Buyers Club. I would just post as I would post. Sometimes I would do it as I was posting my individual recipes that were for sale that week. I would say also, if you want to drop your name, or I would just throw a shout out there simply for it. And that I never started doing until I had it going. I don't know that I'd recommend doing that too regularly in advance, because that might, maybe if too many people did that, it would just get a little too much. But I would just post like, hey, newsletter's coming out on Tuesday, sign up here. And it would just link to the website. They would be able to put in their own email address and do it. So I didn't have to do any legwork. So it would instantly add them to my newsletter. And then,
how many people do you have on your email list?
I think 123.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Is it? I don't know. I don't have
no, I think it's great. I mean, it's like what, like 10%? So you can definitely promote more, but I mean, it's a great, I think it's, it's a great start.
Yeah.
That to get 125 eyeballs on your site.
No kidding. Yeah. I mean, that's like 125 customers for one person.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's one thing that we love about Pretty Focused, and that we see is in the Buyers Club, we let our grads collect email addresses. We let them post post their shops in there. We let them pull names for, their own private buy and sell Facebook groups. And that is something that you don't often see in other buy and sell groups, like outside the Buyers Club. People are pretty strict on what they allow the people to do. But with Pretty Focus, we really want people to be able to, our goal is just to help people create business, right? And to help them create business. So I love that you've been able to collect that many names from the Buyers Club. That's amazing.
Yeah. And that actually, it's funny that you say that, because that's what I always tell people whenever I would talk to my friends that are in the industry. I mean, I've been doing this now for 18 years, wedding photography. So I've got a lot of friends, local and not. And when I tell them that I'm doing food now, well, the first thing that they ask is, how do you get your clients? Because they're like, oh, do you work for restaurants? Like, they just assume food photographer, you're working locally. And the fact that I'm cooking it on my own is another thing that they're like, what? They always ask, like, how do you get clients then if you're working for American bloggers? And I usually tell them, like, well, the part of the course is that they've got this Facebook group, and its sole purpose is to connect photographers with bloggers so that we can potentially strike up a business relationship together. And
Yeah.
that's how it happens. And everybody's always blown away that's a thing.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Stephanie.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. I was just talking to somebody about, we didn't talk too much about it, but about Upwork. And she is somebody who finds like designers to work for her on Upwork. And, she has to pay Upwork. I don't know if the other designers like have to pay Upwork too. But then if they end up working and connecting together outside of Upwork, they could get in trouble and kicked off of Upwork, right? So like there's like even Upwork, which is a really big, massive, organization, they're, making money off of the creators and the businesses. And so that's just one thing that I think also Pretty Focused stands apart at the Buyers Club, where you can just go in and connect. It's your business. And it's just like a little marketplace for you to be able to conduct business. So it's really, it made me appreciate what we have even more, Stephanie, hearing that.
Yeah, it's very special.
Yeah, for sure. So we have a couple of questions for you. Somebody, first of all, wants to know, how do you not melt your surface, your backdrop, with the straight out of the oven shot?
I always use either, depending on how large the pan or dish is that I've got, I either use like a cookie sheet, or sorry, a cookie. Why am I drawing a blank on?
A cooling rack.
The cooling rack. That's it.
Or like a little oven mitt or something, right?
Or just like some type of trivet.
Yeah, just like you would on your dining room table, So I think sometimes with like the trivets, it raises it up off the board just a little bit too, which is always kind of nice because it kind of adds to the depth of field a little bit. Anyway,
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So Joanne also wants to know where you got those white cookie sheets. Did you see those in her portfolio, Joanne? Or
probably it's not. If it is the one she saw, it's not white. It's like it's almost gold, but it's really light. I got it at Home Sense here in Canada. So
like Home Goods,
yeah,
ish, right?
Oh yeah, Home Goods. They have some fun stuff. I've even seen their. I have to go look at these cookie things now. I've seen pink ones. I've seen pink ones, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that would be so fun for just like Pretty Focused.
Yeah, they always come out at Easter, all different pastels.
Yeah,
love it.
Lots.
So cool. But I have yet to buy the pink ones because I maybe I'll do it this next year. But I love that. So it's like a goldish, like maybe a creamy gold. Yeah. Like the little specks in there.
Lenore said she got a white sheet pan from Home Goods. So.
Oh, Lenore said that? Yeah. Oh, okay. There she is. Yeah. Okay. So what did what you have in your portfolio at graduation attract your recreation clients who liked specific foods like sweets or savories?
That's a good question. I'm gonna say probably. I do more sweets than I care to. I'm not gonna lie. Mainly just personal preference. I enjoy shooting both. I just having the sweeter foods in the house for me is too tempting. So I don't like to have it all the time. But I think so. Yeah, I feel like the majority of my portfolio was desserts. I'm trying to think. It's like cookies and cobbler.
How often do you do savory dishes for clients?
It's probably, if I had to put a number on it, it's probably like 70% sweets, 30% savory, I think.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then you have someone like Lenore who's doing 100% savory. So it really is how you want to shape your business, right?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. It is. Yeah. It is true. So we do encourage people as they're building their portfolio, Kate, to make sure that they have like a nice, wide selection, because you don't want to completely limit yourself to a certain area when you're beginning.
Yeah.
When you're just starting out, right? You want to try to get as many, clients as you can, and then you can kind of start to niche down. Because what did you say, Stephanie? Like conversation you and Lenore had, if Lenore said.
So this is full disclosure. I was completely wrong in this conversation. But when Lenore was looking at positioning herself, she said, should I come out and say I only want to do savory? And I said, yeah, absolutely. Attract your best, your ideal customer. And she said, would you hire me if I said I only wanted to do savory? And I said, oh no, I would not. And what we realized is, in the brain of a blogger, sometimes that can be like a red flag, or like it's giving someone an excuse not to hire you. Whereas if she had said nothing and I hired her and loved her work, and she said, I really only want to do savory, I would say, no problem, right? Well, let's make it work. Yeah. And so, whereas if she had said that up front, that I would have never hired her in the first place.
It's all how you like position and communicate, position yourself. And
and I think too, like, as long as it's no bait and switch, like you're not like, oh, by the way, I'm vegan or something, like, but I think it's a natural progression to say, I really love doing savory dishes. I hate baking. Would it be okay if I never did another baking shoot for you again? And most people would say yes.
Yeah. Okay. So what has been, this is just a little fun question, what have been some of your favorite recipes that you have photographed?
So by taste, or just fun to shoot?
All of it.
Okay. Oh, it's so hard. I recently did Long Live the Choco Taco. I did a Choco Taco.
Wow.
And I was really nervous. I was so nervous. I don't like working with frozen food.
I know, it's a little intimidating, huh?
It is very intimidating. And especially because, and maybe this is just with my setup, because in the studio, it is separated from my house. If I'm doing that and it's warm outside and whatever, I've got a ductless air conditioner, so I can crank it. But then I'm constantly running out and in and out and in, and the temperature changes, and then like I'm all flustered because I'm sweating, but I'm freezing, and so I don't like doing a lot of frozen stuff because it's very intimidating. But I loved doing that, and I was really happy actually with the way the images turned out, and so was my client. So that was a bonus.
So was that a recreation then?
No, I almost. So two of my clients I only do exclusives for, and then the other client I do just recreations for.
Okay.
So like they're like not my exclusives where I've created it, but they've hired me to do an exclusive of their recipe.
I would love to see those. I would love to see how they turned out.
They were fun, and we did them mixed. So we did like nuts on the top for some of them, and then we did like sprinkles just to bring in the fun colors. And so that was probably one of my favorites, I think. And I will admit, I did a 3-layer cake, which I said I will never do again. I've told once that was it. Because I literally dropped the first one on the ground, and I was so sad.
Oh no!
Like, moving around just too quickly, and poof! It all just. I was like, oh no. But that was a fun one to shoot, even though it was hard and intense. And I had to see a massage therapist and a chiropractor that week because I was bent over too much. Like I wasn't really like taking breaks. But it was really fun to do a cake, especially because cake, like baking and icing and stuff, is not really my forte at all. I prefer like more like the pastry sides. Like I like pies and stuff like that.
Oh, God bless you. You're one of those, huh? Pies are so hard too.
I guess. I don't know. I'm like even pretty focused. Like that. I was like the pie person. That's always like whenever we go somewhere, like I'll bring a pie. Like I love making pies.
I realized for me, I don't have a good food processor for pies. And I think that's what's holding me back is what I'm telling myself. So I got to get a good food processor and that's will probably help. I hope.
Maybe. I don't know. I feel like I haven't made a variety of pies too much. So I don't know what helps or what doesn't help.
Yeah. So what are some of the oddest things that you have photographed?
Odd. Oh, that's a hard question.
Or have you like legitimately loved everything?
No, I haven't. Not at all.
Okay.
Like I don't enjoy doing peaches and coconut stuff because I don't eat either at all. Like growing up, I would tell people I was allergic to peaches because I can't even stand the smell of them. So that's always tricky. But one thing that I thought was odd, and I hope she's not listening and feels bad. I was asked to do a buttermints, and I was just like to me, when I think of buttermints, you know what I'm talking about? Those little tiny. I think Steph, you guys recently did cream cheese ones that were maybe round.
Yeah, they're like the old, like the
old-fashioned ones.
So, I know the blogger and I know the post. Eva did an amazing job, and I shared it on my Facebook page, and it went viral. So
you did?
Yeah.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, if it's, I'm pretty sure it's the same. Yeah. So, you did an amazing job.
Oh, that's hilarious. I didn't know that. Okay, well, hey.
Are they like the old-fashioned wedding mints? Because I remember like in the 90s,
they're kind of like those. I'll find
like
them.
the wedding cake with the raspberry filling, the mints and peanuts was like the reception. At least that in Southern Illinois is what it was.
Yeah. To me, it was my grandmother always had them. And I remember like as kids, like, if there's candy out, you're going to grab it. It doesn't matter. You don't have to ask for permission. You're just like, oh, it's there. I'm just going to sneak it or whatever. And I remember always grabbing the top one and the whole jar would just come with it. Like everything came up, like they were just all stuck together. And so when it came across in the email, I was like, buttermints.
Yeah.
I was like, people make these? Like,
yeah, they got 10,000 shares on my page.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know this. That's hilarious.
I'll send you the link. You did a great job.
So it was odd in the fact of like buttermints. Who, like you said, who makes buttermints?
Yeah.
Maybe it's just the nostalgia.
It is, because the cream cheese mints went wild, and it was all people going, "Oh my god! At my sister's wedding, my mom made these in the shape of a leaf."
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I ended up giving them to my mother-in-law, and she loved them. So I was like, "Oh, that kind of works."
That is hysterical. Okay, so I saw the cream cheese mints. I'm gonna have to see what these buttermints look like now.
Here,
do they look like the cream cheese ones?
What's that?
Did they look like the cream cheese ones, or?
So the cream cheese ones, I think, were circular, right?
Yeah, they're like circles, and you press a fork.
Yeah,
like
a peanut butter cookie kind of style.
Yeah,
it's small. Whereas the buttermints are more like you roll them out into like a sausage, and then you just
like little squares. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. I love that.
You click on that link, Melody, you'll be like, Facebook. Facebook loves those.
I love it. That's awesome.
Oh yeah. Yep.
But you did a great job. Like a really good job with them.
Thanks.
Because I saw them and I'm like, damn it. I should have thought of those.
It's funny. But like who would think I just thought it was so like it was just I don't know. I haven't seen a buttermint since unfortunately, my grandmother passed. Yeah. Like it's just it was a strange thing. So I feel like it's not on everybody's radar. So that's amazing that it was on hers and that I got to do it. So that was fun.
That is amazing. So along those lines, this is a great question from Marina. Where did it go? Okay. How do you get the food to look not homemade, like a chef made it?
To make it look like a chef made then.
We don't really want it to look like a chef made it. We want it to look like your mom, who's an amazing cook, made it. That is key.
Yeah, I was going to say, if my work looks like a chef made it, then holy smokes. But definitely.
Yeah, you have to think of what are the audience of, okay, so the Buttermints, you have to think of the audience of the people of your clients. So the food, so Stephanie, your audience, right? You have to
Right.
think of them. And so usually it's middle America people looking for what they're going to fix for dinner, what they're going to take to the potluck, you know, the barbecue, what they're going to take to the game, what they're going to fix for a company coming over. And so these are very approachable dishes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so they do need to look like your mom, who's a really good cook, made it. So slightly elevated, I would say. So it is really important to like love cooking and to be a good cook. Like if you burn water,
Right.
probably
Yeah.
not the best, might not be the best fit. We take a lot of learning, right? To kind of get to that point. So
you can't execute. So you need to be able to do things like if you make a graham cracker crust, it needs to stay together. Like things like that. Like, you know, layers need to look clean, but at the end of the day, in like the modern tutorial-based food blogging, so what we're talking about are bloggers who make money from ads, not Instagrammers or magazines who, you know, it's click that looks beautiful, move on. This is, I see this recipe. Now I'm going to leave Facebook, Google, Pinterest, maybe now TikTok. I'm going to leave wherever it is and go over to their website and grab the recipe. That is significant that someone's going to leave Facebook and go look at a recipe. So it's bloggers who monetize by ads, and typically those are home-based cooks, right? So you don't want something that looks too editorial so that it's so fancy that they think they could never make it. Like it's just not it's not going to work for the type of blogger who is the customer here.
Right. And so speaking of customers here and who our customers are, so we teach people really specifically to work for food bloggers in the food blogging industry. But that said, Eva, have you ever worked for restaurants? Because we know that we have our grads have had other opportunities come their way. And some have been able to work for restaurants or maybe local businesses. Have you been able to work with anybody local, or would you have any tips for people who are doing restaurant photography?
Honestly, I don't have the time. I'm busy enough doing working with the bloggers that I have that even if I got an inquiry, I'm not sure I would entertain it. I don't know that I could really I don't know if I could give a recommendation or advice because I've never pretty focused. I worked for a marketing, I was hired from a marketing company to do food photography for a restaurant.
Wow.
But I mean, it was very different because it was mostly just used for their own social media and promotion. It fit more in line with the type of stuff that I would do, you know, at a wedding reception. I like to photograph the food so that the venue has something, right? So it was more in that sort of creative style than necessarily like tutorial based and to really show off the food. So adding sort of that other flair to it was okay. So I'm not sure that I would really, and that was just that one client. So I don't know if all restaurants would appreciate that or what, but I mean, obviously talk to them to see what they would want. And if your style would even work with what they're interested in before even entertaining it.
I was thinking, cause pre-internet Stephanie, I worked for marketing and PR agencies. And so we would get restaurants as clients sometimes. And I feel like, and not saying this because I'm a food blogger, but I feel like food bloggers are in a lot of ways better clients because it was a lot, and maybe it's changed in, 12 to 15 years. But at that time, it's hard to be a restaurant, and the money is tight, and it's an industry of up and downs, and sometimes it would be chasing money or small budgets, things like that. And what I've heard from our photographers is that they're surprised at how fast bloggers pay. Right? Where they're like, send an invoice, paid. And so I think there's something to be said for that. And I think it's like when people always imagine what is the glitz and glamour. So, like it's writing a cookbook, or, being in a magazine, or, those types of things, when those things pay nothing. Like where the money is on your website as a food blog. So I don't know. I wonder if that is an industry where it would be tough, to break in, and tough to sustain, because if you have to have the food locally, like there's only so many restaurants who are going to be able to pay, whereas we're talking about thousands of bloggers, and anyone in the world can be your client.
Yeah.
Right.
It just feels
You're not just limited to local people.
Yeah. Like when I first started blogging, a lot of times I'd have women come up to me and be like, you should come to our church group and hand out your business cards, like for my blog. And I'm like, well, that's great. Like, thank you. But also like thinking like my vision is bigger than that, right? Like my vision is that there will be millions of people from around the world coming to my site, not just the 20 people in the room. So I think it's hard for some people to understand the opportunity that exists here in food blogging. So I would be really curious to talk to someone who did exclusively restaurant photography, and what it's like compared to what it's like working for food bloggers in 2022,
And how many restaurant shoots are they booking?
Right.
What are they doing to get their name out there? All the marketing that they're having to do. I would think it would be a lot of work.
Yeah, it would be really interesting to know the differences.
Yeah. So, but speaking of recipes and doing things for bloggers, if you have piles of like vintage handwritten recipes, could those be like updated and photographed and sold?
I would say absolutely. Yeah.
I think you would just probably put them in Google to make sure it's not completely like Aunt, Susan didn't like go to a Martha Stewart cookbook and copy it and it just looks like it was her recipe. Like just do a double check. But I think a lot of those recipes, they just are what they are.
Yeah.
So in those cases, you would write your own instructions, because you need to have your own instructions in your own words. But
I mean, that's a really, really great place to start, because I mean, if there are any casseroles on that list,
or buttermints, old cookies, like I do a lot of like a lot of recipes where people are like, "Whoa, is 1984 back?" But people love it. It's nostalgia. Just feel like
yes, old church books or old church cookbooks. I still remember my aunt's corn casserole that is like now like a viral recipe now, and I was like, I mean, we ate that growing up, and so that's
like
a
chicken
really great
and dumplings,
Amish cookbooks, all that stuff.
Redonda said like old church cookbooks, things like that. So you'll definitely want to rewrite the instructions, like write them and, make sure. A lot of times, like my stepmother has this amazing cookbook that she brings everywhere, and she has for 2 decades, but there are so many instructions left out. Like, if you actually go, because sometimes I'm like, can I get that from you for the blog? And we'll get it. I'm like, well, this is going to be
this is going to take
difficult, because they'll she knows how to make it because she's been doing it for 20 years. So I think you'll just have to go through it.
It's like a science experiment.
Exactly. Yeah. Trying to you have a list of ingredients.
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
it, figure out what order they go in to make
Yeah.
it turn out right. So Eva, do you ever see yourself getting into video?
Yes. So this is the one thing I haven't dove into yet fully. I did register for the course. When we were away in April, I registered for both the Redonda's styling course and burned through it on the beaches of Aruba. And then I was like, oh my God, I need something else. So I registered for Tia Lynn's class too. And I started, but then I was like, I feel like I need a camera with me to play as I'm watching the video because video is so foreign to me. I've had clients ask me all the time, do you do video? No. Can you just do like a little bit of the ceremony? No. Like I don't want to touch it because the editing side of it has always been very intimidating from the wedding side. Like you've got hours and hours of footage. But I really do want to get into it. So I told myself after the summer chaos and I get into sort of the slower time, I usually take almost all of December off. So that's when I'm going to start playing. So
that's great.
Accountable. By January, hopefully I've at least got I start doing some practice stuff. That's my goal.
Good.
You post in that group and Tia will hold you accountable.
I know, I will. So I'm gonna I want to get another. I'm lazy when it comes to moving stuff. So I've got to get my second light up and active so I don't have to move my shooting light and my video light. Like I just want to leave it stationary and then play and stuff and then I plan to do it. But yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to wrap up here in a couple of minutes, but I want to make sure that we have answered everybody's questions. So if you have more questions, please drop them in the comments. But I'm going to ask you this as everybody's posting their comments of what has Pretty Focused allowed you to do?
Oh gosh, honestly, so many things. So the biggest thing for me, the biggest takeaway and shift I would say in my life is just to find a better balance. Oh, here I go. To find a better balance. Sorry.
Oh girl, no.
I've been shooting weddings for 18 years. I mean, aside from 2020, really, if you want to call it a wash, but weekends are always gone. And every time it's like, oh, friends are getting together. Oh, Eva's working because I'm always shooting weddings on Saturdays, sometimes engagement sessions on Sundays. And then when we had our little guy, he's 5 now, it was like, okay, I can still do this. I can be a mom and still work 6 days a week somehow and function. And then when he started getting older, it's different when they're just a little sack of potatoes, but then when they start getting older and then it's like, oh, you got to go to work again. You got to go here again. And it's just every time it's just a little stab to your heart. It's so the fact that I get to be home, I can take him to school. I can still pick him up from school sometimes, depending on if I've got something in the oven or not. I can run and come back because it's 2 minutes away. I can technically still I could take a half day and still go out and have fun, and I can come back and still work because I do shoot available light or artificial light. I can shoot later if I choose to, which I don't. Usually I'll be like, oh yeah, I'll come back and do this, and then I just leave it till the next day because I'm actually having fun living my life now. So I don't mind setting work aside now. It feels more like I'm my own boss now than ever before.
Wow.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. It's given me a lot of freedom in that sense. And I don't feel it took me a long time when I started my wedding photography business to feel comfortable saying no. I was always told, when you're saying no, remember you're saying no to you're saying yes to your family. When you say no to clients, you're saying yes to your family. And I always knew that, but it's still at the bottom line. I'm like, but I still have bills to pay and I still, want to grow and do different things.
Sure.
But this changed things so much that I didn't need to worry about it that way. And it was from day one. It was easy to say no right away and not feel any guilt or not have to worry about things financially or, anything. And coming out of a pandemic, I was still in, really, when you think about it, when I started, to me, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So can I ask how, and you don't have to, don't give us any numbers, but just how did it compare, financially from, being the wedding photographer and, event photographer to making that shift to food?
well, I went from like my books are still combined. So when I look at things, it's unless I'm literally looking at it and I can break things down. But I had my first 6-figure year last year, and I
Wow.
never have. And I've been in business, like I said, 18 years doing wedding photography.
Wow.
And I've been full time since 2012. So I had been full time for 10 years pretty much.
Wow.
So,
And how much of that, so last year was your first 6-figure year, so 2021. How
mhm.
much of that was food versus like wedding? Because you still had a couple in there.
Yeah, I would say probably 60% was food.
Okay.
Mhm.
Interesting. It's
And
so
then, wow.
interesting. Even like I want to
Wow.
scream to the rooftops for anyone who does weddings that's looking
Yeah.
for something to do in the like off season.
Yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
Which would turn into a everyday season.
Right.
Which it would, and you'd be like,
Yeah.
I don't have time for weddings.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a few people who have stopped doing weddings,
Yeah.
which I don't think we would have thought. I think when we started, we thought we would be supplemental, which
Yeah.
is amazing. How it shows how much opportunities out there that we don't even realize.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and when I would sit, because and that's what I thought I was going to do. And when I first started, like, when you just look at things super black and white, you think, at least pricing for Canada, like you go out and you shoot a wedding, it feels like it's one day, you know what I mean? Like in one day I'm earning $3,500, or I'm doing a recreation for, the pricing's probably starting around 175 to some people are close to 300 is kind of my guess from what I've seen. So it seems like, well, it makes more sense to continue doing wedding photography. But then once you iron everything out and you see how you've got potential for growth revenue wise, doing other stuff and adding in certain things, then it really doesn't make sense. And the balance of time, I would rather, even if I was doing 6-figure wedding photography and, 6-figure food, I'd still rather pick the business that's more flexible and take my weekends back and have the life that I want and the business that I enjoy.
Yeah. And Melody's like told me like when you do weddings, like there's a lot of like free get your name out there stuff, like things like, and I don't know if you were having to do that at that point in your career, but that would be a cost that I think wouldn't register on that wedding day of all the things you had to do to market yourself.
To get there.
Yeah.
Gosh. I remember, I don't know if it, how it was for you. I remember whenever I was first starting out, it was like early, I think it was maybe 2016, maybe 2017. I don't know. But I was just like, I just want to be published.
Yeah.
That was like my thing. I just want to be published because that was what everybody did, is they did these styled shoots and they got published in these wedding blogs. And I worked really, really hard to get published. I was like, this is going to be my goal for the year. Well, by March, I had met my goal. And then on the blog that I was published on, they had like, I don't know what their audience was, but they were a smaller blog. And then I got to thinking about it and I was like, I have been published on Stephanie's blog for over a year now, and my work has been seen by millions.
Yeah.
And I got paid for it the whole time.
Yeah.
And so like just that perspective, I was like, what am I doing? And it was like this huge shift. It was like, okay, all in here. I can start saying no to portraits. I can start saying no to weddings. I'm all in here because this is where I'm making my money. And you let the money tell you where to go, right? The money and the time and the freedom is where you're going to want to put your energy and effort into growing.
Yeah. Well, think like probably a million people have seen your buttermints.
That's crazy. I had no idea.
Right?
Yeah. Right.
Your buttermint, your work, people are seeing everywhere.
My grandma would be so proud.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. So, Eva, thank you so much for talking with us tonight, for sharing with us. Is there any advice that you would give to somebody who is thinking about joining Pretty Focused?
I mean, you really have nothing to lose. I truly feel that way. I know I personally, and maybe also because I fast tracked in terms of how quickly I went through it, but like I made my my money back within probably 2 months, I'm guessing.
Wow.
Not including props and stuff, because I definitely tend to overspend. I mean, who doesn't? But I tend to overspend there.
Yeah.
That's
an ongoing issue. We're in recovery for.
Yeah. So we need a Facebook group just dedicated to like therapy, like shopping therapy.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, I don't think you have anything to lose. I feel like if you enjoy the thought of owning your own business and having the flexibility in life and income potential is there, I don't think you have anything to lose. But like, it's just, it seems like it doesn't look like it's stopping, which is crazy. But
everybody always has to eat. They
Yeah.
will always visit blogs, especially, right now as they're looking for, cheaper recipes, or looking for the casseroles, or looking
Not
for
eating out, right? Like
they're not eating out, and so that's just a really great leg up, I think, that the world of food blogging has. And we're just so lucky that we get to be a part of it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So you guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really love that you were able to be here. If tonight was your first night, joining a Pretty Focused live, if you just, drop it in the comments that this was my first time, we would love to be able to connect with you and just welcome you to the group. But thank you guys so much. Eva, thank you so much for sharing with us.
You're welcome.
We really appreciate you. And we're so excited to see what this next year holds for you.
Video.
Yes. Amazing. All right. Bye, guys.
Thanks so much.